Artists, we are here together again to make art, have fun, and grow. And today I have two special guests. I have a barn owl and I have a great horned owl. And yes, they are real. They're not alive, but they are real. There's a program that educates children about animals, and they preserved these so that we could learn about their habitats and their behaviors, and so that we could do a better job at protecting their environment and protecting them so that they can live long, healthy lives. Owls are top predators, and they are so cool and super beautiful. Well, in my opinion anyway. I'm not sure what you think. Today, we're going to focus on the great horned owl. But I was able to get a barn owl too, so I thought it would be fun to compare and contrast them, especially the way they look and some features that they have. So, what do you notice when you look at the two of them? Maybe something on the top of their head is different? If you guessed those tufted feathers, you are right. The great horned owl has what's called plumicorns. Pluma is Latin for feather, and corna is Latin for horn. So they're like feathered horns, but they're not really horns. Some people think they're the ears, but they're not the ears either. The ears are tucked under there on the side of their head. We're not exactly sure why the great horned owl has plumicorns, but we think that it helps them camouflage. And we also think that it helps them communicate with each other because they can actually move and wiggle them a little bit. Kind of like your eyebrows. I'm not super good at that. Some other really cool things about the great horned owl and owls in general is that they have amazing eyesight. This is so that they can see at night to find their prey. Prey is another word for their food. I have a book here and I wanted to show you a picture of an owl face up close. Look at how big those eyes are. In our art, we're going to exaggerate their eyes because that is in fact an important part of the owl. They have binocular vision, just like humans. That helps them know exactly where their food is because they can perceive, they can detect depth. That means they know how far away things are and they can figure that out really quick. They can also turn their heads almost all the way around, which humans cannot do, and that's very unique to the owl. 270 degrees, actually. That's almost a full circle. They can basically look directly behind them with one turn of their head. I wanted to show the great horned owl a little bit closer so you could see those plumicorn tufts on the top of its head, along with its big eyes, its hooked beak. I wanted you to notice all the different browns, whites, and golden and gray colors. And, of course, the talons. These are serious business, friends. There's 4 talons on each foot, and they're sharp and curved so it can hold its prey tight. Pretty cool, huh? Let's look at some art here. In this video, you're going to learn 2 different ways to draw and paint an owl. Here are some finished baby owls from my students. You'll decide which one you want to draw first, or you may combine them in the same picture. Look at the first drawing here. You have a baby and an adult owl. Notice how we exaggerated the large eyes on these great horned owls, and they all have tufts on the top of their heads, along with patterning in their wing feathers. These are important characteristics of the great horned owl. To get started for this project, you'll need oil pastels. Use any set you have around the house. You'll also want a variety of brushes and water and watercolors. On the resources tab of this video, you'll find a sheet with all of these owl examples. The top 2 examples remind me of baby owls. The bottom 2 are a little more complex. Their bodies are sideways, but their head is facing towards you. We are going to start with the black oil pastel. Place one finger in the middle of the page and above it draw the letter V. Close up the V with a round contour line. You just created a beak. Then draw 2 large circles on the side of the beak. You're going to draw 2 more circles inside the large circles, a medium and a small. Then you're going to very carefully color in the medium circle, being careful to leave the smallest tiny circle white. Leave a little space at the bottom of the page for the talons and the branch. The sides of the owlet are a soft curved line, and the tufts are simple triangles. Connect the sides with a line that goes straight across. Owls have 4 talons, but when they're clinging to a branch, you can only see the front 3. Now we're going to create a different pattern on the belly. To show feather texture, I'm making teardrop shapes. You get to decide your pattern and your colors. I'm going to stick with traditional great horned owl colors. I'm grabbing a variety of browns, grays, golds, and I'll use white. I'm drawing rough scribbles here to create a natural look on the feathers. I'm being careful to stay within the areas I created with my black lines. I enjoy layering my colors, so I'm putting a light brown on top of the dark brown. I'm going to keep the belly pattern simple by just adding a little bit of gray in those teardrop shapes, and I'm adding a golden brown into the talons. Now for the branch. We want to go from the side of the owl all the way off the paper. Make sure that you have a messy mat underneath so oil pastel doesn't get on your table. Line up the bottom of the branch with the tips of your talons. I didn't leave much room for the leaves, but I'm going to squish some in here. Hopefully when you do your art, you'll have a little more space and you can add as many leaves as you can fit. I'm going to get creative with this space up above my owl and add another branch above. You could consider putting stars or a moon in your sky. When you're ready to switch to paint, make sure you have a paper towel to clean your brush off in between colors. You're going to add 3 drops of water to your yellow and then swirl it around like you're a ballerina dancing on your toe. You're going to spread that yellow all around, but if you've left that little white dot for the reflection on the eye, be careful that you don't fill that in. I like to use yellow first because it's always the first color to get mucked up. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. I wanted to have a mostly white belly. So I'm taking my white oil pastel and I'm rubbing it really hard in between all those teardrop shapes. It's okay that I'm picking up a little bit of black streaks. I actually like that effect. Okay, back to the paint. Time to spread brown paint over all my brown patterning. Remember how I had a flat brush and a round brush? I like to use my flat brush for my larger areas, especially when I'm spreading water and paint color around. This is a large area and it takes time to fill. Make sure that you have a lot of water on your paint. I like to joke that it's called watercolor for a reason. It's not called dry color. So that means we need to use water on our watercolor. I'm going to stick with the brown and complete the branch before I switch colors. I like to use my round brush for small pointed areas like these leaves. Okay, now for the belly. I'm going to use black on top of all that white oil pastel, and you'll see that the oil pastel is resisting the paint. So I'm going to spread it around with water, which helps it turn a little bit lighter like gray. This is the color I'd like anyway, so I'm barely dipping in the paint and I'm mostly just dipping in the water and spreading the paint around. Okay, my artists, we have a fun treat. We're going to use salt on our watercolor. You can use plain table salt. Mine happens to look a little pink because it's called Himalayan pink salt. Tastes the same and has the same effect. For the background, I'm doing a wet on wet technique. I'm putting a lot of water on my paper and then touching it with the color. As soon as you've filled in the background while your paint is still wet, you're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt. Don't go too crazy, you just want a little bit. You can also pinch it with your fingers and sprinkle it around. Let it dry flat and it will look like stars when it's all dry. Okay, now I'm going to show you the second version of the owl. I'm going to draw the one with the wing open. Its body is facing to the side, but its head is facing forward. Before using my oil pastel, I'm going to practice here using my bare finger to figure out where my line is going. I'm starting near the top center and I'm making a swooping line almost to the edge of the paper. It's like a backwards J. I'm drawing a little neck feather, a C shape, and then the tufts at the top of the head, a soft contour line, another tuft, and then a backwards C shape to finish the head. My line is swooping down to meet up with where I started. Now for the two wings. The closed wing follows the shape of the belly. The open wing starts with a line that goes straight out to the edge of the paper and then works its way back towards the body. The rounded tips of those feathers are like fingers on a hand that get smaller as you work your way down. Remember, when you're looking at the great horned owl from the front, you only see 3 of its 4 talons. So I'm showing that here on each of the feet. I like how playful the owl is. It's going to be standing on a branch, looking out and protecting its egg. Okay, let's do the face. In the center, we're going to draw a V and we're going to close it up with a soft line. Then we're going to make 2 large circles almost filling the face. I'm going to do the eye a little different this time by just coloring in a black dot. I'm doing a horizontal wave pattern on one wing and a vertical wave pattern on the other. This shows that one wing is open and one wing is closed. Now I'm adding little lines for texture to represent the different angles of the feathers. It's fun to play around with layering different colors. The top of the branch starts at the ankle and goes to the edge of the paper. The bottom of the branch goes right under the toes. This makes it look like the owl is standing on the branch. I'm drawing a small limb off my main branch and I'm going to leave room to draw a nest. You can draw your leaves any size and any shape. Watch how one of my leaves goes right off the edge of the page. This is a great way to get everything on the picture without smushing it in. Now to draw the nest. Firmly press down with your oil pastel and layer lots of lines of different colors. I'm going to draw one gray egg. How many eggs will you add to your nest and what color will they be? Okay, let's start painting the owl. I'm going to start with yellow before it gets mucked up with other colors. Remember, you're going to move 3 drops of water to your paint and then twirl it around like a ballerina dancing. With just one dip of my brush, I get enough brown to fill the wing. The best way to get a light color when you're using watercolor is to add more water. Instead of adding brown paint on the inside of the wing, I used water to spread it around. Here you're going to see me make gray paint using a lot of water and a little bit of black. When the black paint gets too dark, I just dip my paintbrush in water and spread it around. Sometimes when we're using watercolor, we end up with a puddle of paint. Watch how I soak it up with my brush and move it over to a new area. You can use your brush like a sponge. This strategy works best if you dry your paintbrush on the paper towel in between moving the paint around. Once the owl is filled in with color, we're going to concentrate on painting the branch, the leaves, the nest, and any other additions you've added to your picture. I want you to pause before you do your background and make sure you have some salt ready. I grabbed the Himalayan pink salt from my kitchen. You can use any type of salt that you have on hand. I like to use a wet on wet watercolor technique to fill the background. Notice how I spread water over a large section and then drop color into it. When the watercolor spreads out, that's called a bloom. It's so cool to watch, and it looks great when it's dry. We're just going to sprinkle a little salt and not get too crazy with it. You can either sprinkle the salt when you're done painting, just make sure your paint is still wet, or you can do it a section at a time as you're working through the background. Just make sure you don't paint on top of the salt. That would make it stick to the paper. The salt creates a twinkling star effect as the paint dries. My owls wanted to say goodbye, and I thought you'd want to see them one more time before you start your art. I'm super curious. Are you going to do a little baby owl? So cute. Or are you going to do the one that's a little more complex and add some fun things in your background? Maybe you'll do a combination picture, or maybe you'll do one of each. Gosh, there's so many different ideas. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Remember, be easy on yourself. Practice makes better. You can do this more than once till you're happy with it, and then you can share it with me. If you enjoyed this lesson, click the like button, and if you want to be the first to see our new videos, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. See you next time at Studio Sprout, where we come together to make art have fun and grow.